The federal government has finally released $3.7 billion in heating aid to the states. But if you are waiting for a letter in the mail, you might already be too late. Because of the 43-day government shutdown, states are racing to catch up. But we also have confirmed reports that those application windows could be closing in less than a week in some areas. So it's very important that you act quickly. In today's video, we are going to break down a whole bunch of news that you need to know, including what's happening right now, the 8 states that got their funding cut in this funding cycle, the difference between the different types of heating grants so that you don't miss any opportunities for help. And then I'm going to answer the most common questions that we get, especially from those of you who rely on SSI or SNAP and who may be wondering if these heating checks are going to lower your other monthly benefits. So the answer to that one may surprise you. We have a lot of ground to cover today, and I hope you'll stick with me. First, let's take a look at the timeline here. We know that the Department of Health and Human Services officially released that funding on November 28th, and usually that money is figured out clear back in October. Because that funding was delayed for so long, local offices are now swamped and trying to catch up. Now, that money is usually figured out in October, but because that funding was delayed, it's created a little bit of chaos. So some states have already issued those grants using leftover federal funding from last year or state funds in some cases. That's why some of you, including Nancy, received your LIHEAP a little bit ago, possibly just a couple of weeks ago in November, before this federal disbursement took place. However, for the rest of you, a lot of states just decided to wait to see what the federal government was going to do, because there's been a lot of uncertainty about whether or not this particular program would be funded. So for those of you who have been waiting, now is the time to take action to get that money. We know that some states, including Pennsylvania, have started sending out those funds as of December 3rd. For those states that already started accepting pre-applications before the funding was finalized, like Pennsylvania did, the plan is to send those payments first to the people who have already applied. And if you already did that, those payments should be available for you in about 2 weeks. For everyone else, though, it is really important that you apply right away. As Patricia King from PECO said, quote, "When the funding is gone, it's gone and it won't come back until next year," end quote. I cannot overstate how important it is to get that application in right away, because LIHEAP is and always has been a first come, first served benefit. Now, if you are in a state like Kentucky, you really don't have any time to lose, because reports indicate that their application window is going to close as early as December 12th. That is literally just a few days away. And if you've been postponing that application because you weren't sure, you don't have a lot of time to get that in. I haven't seen any indication that they're planning to extend that deadline, so please act quickly. Now, there's some bad news for users in other states as well. The official press release from ACF said that 8 states would not get extra funding under the IIJA this year. If you remember, that's the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. And that gives a little bit of extra funding to LIHEAP in most states, but not in these 8 states. And the states that are affected by this that are getting $0 are Colorado, Kentucky, Louisiana, New Mexico, North Carolina, Oregon, South Carolina, and Tennessee. So if you are in one of those states, please be aware that that funding is going to be more limited. And that means that the competition for that funding may be higher. So it is extra important that you apply for that right away. Now I want to take a moment to answer some common questions about LIHEAP before we get into the how you apply. So a huge mistake that I see a lot of people make on this channel is they tell me, oh, well, I can't apply because my power isn't shut off yet, or, well, I can't apply because I pay my utility bills on time. Both of those are wrong. There is a very important reason for that, and that's that LIHEAP actually has several different grants inside of it. So the crisis grant is for when you have a broken heater or a shutoff notice. And then you also have the heating or cooling grant depending on the season. And this is the one that a lot of people miss because you do not need to be behind on your bills to get it. Some states call this the cash grant, but this is the base part of LIHEAP that a lot of people miss out on. Now, ultimately, if you meet the income requirements, you can get that other grant that will go directly to your utility company to help you out, even if you're not behind. In states like Pennsylvania, they call that the cash grant, and it alone can be worth up to $1,000. In places like Massachusetts, it can go up to $1,500. Some states go even higher. We've been putting together a list on our website so that you can see just how high these grants can go. But in some of them, they're over $2,000. In Alaska, it's over $6,000. Now, as you can see over here, this is the LIHEAP Clearinghouse website, and this is a government website that tracks all the different values of the various LIHEAP programs. So you can see you have the minimum amount for heating, the maximum amount for heating, the minimum amount for cooling, the maximum amount for cooling, and then your crisis maximums for both winter and summer, and then the total you could receive year round. This was updated just a few weeks ago on November 24th of 2025. And so you can see here in Alaska, that heating maximum is well over $6,000. Okay. In other areas, I'm pretty sure this $10,000 amount here in Delaware is going to include some weatherization assistance program or home repair value. I don't think that that $10,000 goes straight to your utilities, but I can look into that if you're curious. But you can see, like here in Illinois, that heating maximum is up past $2,500. It's over $4,000 in Kansas. We're talking about a lot of money to help you with your utility bills. You $7,500 in North Dakota. Like these are big, big amounts. Now, once it gets over a certain amount, I start to think that this is going to be including that weatherization assistance as well, because some states do combine those. But even still, I have to tell you that weatherization assistance program changed my life, because we had access to that when we had our first house and our utility bills were insane, like $600 a month. We got LIHEAP to pay down a past due bill. We got weatherization assistance to help make our home more energy efficient. And the end result was not only did we clear our past due balance of over like $3,000, we also received over $10,000 in home improvements that dropped our bill down to $150 a month. It literally cut our bill down to 25% of what it was. So if you are eligible for these programs, I strongly recommend that you apply, because they can absolutely change your life. Now, you can apply for both parts. You can apply for both the normal heating and cooling and the crisis grant, but your state is usually going to have a maximum on how much you can receive in a given year. But you can apply for both parts, so please don't forget that. If you get the regular amount and you get a little bit of help, but then you have a crisis later on, you can go ask for help again in at least most areas. So please be sure to check that out. Now, the most common question we receive is, if I get this help with heat, is SNAP or SSI going to count this as income and then cut my monthly benefits? The answer to that is no. This LIHEAP program funding is exempt from being counted as income. And that's true whether your state calls this LIHEAP, LEAP, HEAP, SEEP, HEAT. There's all sorts of different state names for this program. All of them are funded under the same LIHEAP grant, and they're not going to count as income toward those programs. Now, question number 2 is, do I have to be a homeowner? And the answer to that is no. Renters can qualify too. In fact, you may be able to qualify even if your utilities are included in your rent, as long as you can prove that your rent is higher because of your heating costs. Now, the next question we get is, do I make too much money? And that question is hard to answer on a video like this because it's not universal nationwide like it is for some of the other programs. States are allowed to set their own income limits for LIHEAP, but they have to fall within certain guidelines. So usually it will be no more than 150% of the federal poverty level, or no greater than 60% of the state's median income. If they're choosing median income, in a lot of cases, that's going to be substantially higher than those federal poverty guideline measures. And we have other videos that explain the nuances between those two measurements. Generally, it sounds like they cannot set a threshold lower than 110% of the federal poverty guidelines, though. So for most states, it's going to fall somewhere between 110 and 150. Most of the states I reviewed were around the 150% mark. So when you look at websites like the National Council on Aging, they're saying that a 2-person household in Texas with an income of $38,000 or less may qualify. A two-person household in Ohio could qualify with $37,000 a year or less. In Florida, that income might be up to $40,000 a year. And in California, a two-person household may qualify with an income of up to $4,000 a month or less. So it is going to have some variance depending on what state you live in. But for the most part, my general suggestion is if you're not sure, apply anyway. Let them tell you no. Don't disqualify yourself because you're not sure. If you are right close to that mark, it never hurts to apply, okay? Now, another question that we received from a viewer recently, this came in from Judy. She said, can you get LIHEAP if you get a discount on your electric bill? And this is a fantastic question. So it depends on the source of that discount. Okay, if your utility just offers like a senior discount and you're getting a little bit off of a fee or something, and that's coming from the company itself, you can generally get LIHEAP assistance as well. However, I have seen programs in some states where that discount is actually funded by LIHEAP grant dollars. And in that case, they're probably going to say that you're already receiving that help. So I would need to know more about your situation before I could tell you for sure whether or not that's the case. If you have any doubt, you can always contact your utility company and they can look at what the discount is, what's going on, and help you figure that out for you. They can also point you in the direction of who you would need to apply with. Which of course brings us to our next question, which is how do you apply? The answer to that is pretty simple. You do not want to wait for any mail. You don't want to wait for anyone to reach out to you. You just go to Google and search for your community action agency near you. You can also look up LIHEAP application with your state name. Or if you want, you can come over to our website. We've got the direct links for all of the state agencies in charge of LIHEAP in our LIHEAP database on lowincomerelief.com as well, just to make that a little bit easier for you. The important thing is that you find your local office, and if you can, try to make a phone call instead of just applying online, because usually you're going to have to go into an appointment. When my family got LIHEAP, I had to bring in birth certificates, social security cards, proof of income for my whole household, all of this stuff into an appointment before I could get that assistance. And if that's the case, you want to make sure that you are right at the top of the line for getting into that appointment. So I recommend calling or reaching out in a more direct way to try to make that happen as fast as possible, especially since we know that deadlines are tight and funding is limited. Now, like I said, we've got a list to all of those agencies that you need to apply with on our website. And if you're interested in more ways to get a little bit of extra help right away, our sponsor Free Cash has an awesome app where they can pay you to play games, take surveys, and more. Please stay warm out there, and I will see you again tomorrow with more ways that you can save money and get free stuff.